Welcome back to my channel. You join me in late September 2024 in the south of France at Etang Negreloube. Negreloube is a new venue for myself, never fished it before, but I am with Lee, who has fished it before. He came last October and he chose a very wet week, so he had torrential rain every day, and he had two fish for the week. One was a 60 something pound common, backed up with another fish, but fishing was really slow for the group in that week, so we're hoping that we've got some better fishing for this week coming. However, I am having a video from the bivvy once again, just like my last video at Old Mill. Weather has not been on my side since I arrived yesterday, and yeah, it's been tipping it down. So yes, arrived yesterday afternoon just after 3. For anyone who's fished before from in the south of France, and especially if you've drove, you know what it's like on the first day. But did manage to get all 3 rods out, although they weren't in areas that I really wanted to. A little bit just willy-nilly, just to get some rigs in the water. But I did manage to get them in before I went to bed, and no surprise, I woke up this morning to no action. And same with Lee, he didn't get anything during the night, but we feel like fishing better now. Brought all the rods in and had a good search about, and I'm happy with the 3 different areas that I'm fishing. So I'll talk about Etang Negreloube. It is a 13-acre lake. It's got 8 swims. 2 of those swims are double. The double swims is pegs 1 and 2 and 4 and 5. I've decided to go into swim 3, and before I arrived on this session I had tried to watch as many YouTube videos as possible on this venue just to try and get an idea, and I was also looking into the catch reports on the social media just to try and figure out where a lot of fish have been coming out from. And yeah, historically swim 3 is a good peg, but in all honesty I think there's not a bad peg on this venue. When you really do look at the catch reports, all of the swims on the lake produce good fish. So I've decided to go into swim 3, which gives me a good body of water in the deeper part of the lake. I just think with the weather being a lot cooler than what they've had, you know, they've had hot sun all summer, and even just this week coming, I could see on the weather reports it was sunny days, 25 degrees, and then obviously they know I'm coming on Saturday, so it decides to rain, and it's averaging about 14 to 15 degrees, so a big drop in weather. That might affect the fishing a little bit, but hey, that's out of my hands. So yeah, I decided on swim 3. Gives me the deeper water. I just don't think they'll be in the shallow water with the cooler weather, but fish do normally do the opposite of what I think, so that wouldn't surprise me if they are there. Lee has jumped into next door, which is the double of swim 4 and 5, and that gives him access to the other half of the lake basically. There's only me and him on the lake this week, so we've got the luxury of you know, fishing where we want really. So we've kind of just divided the lake in half. Lee's covering the sort of the middle of the lake to the shallow end, and I'm the middle of the lake to the deep end, if that's what you want to call it. But I am primarily fishing in swim 3's water. I've got 1 rod, which is probably further than I would if there was someone else fishing in pegs 1 and 2, but other than that I'm kind of just fishing in swim 3's water. You get a really good amount of water in this swim, and this feature's just all over, and as you can see there's an island, there's loads of overhanging trees on the far margin, you've got a dam wall, and the fish love to be in this area of the lake. So I'm feeling really confident. You know, going by the recent catch reports, it has been fishing a little bit slow. You know, in the summer you sometimes see people catching up to 15 fish in a week, but I think if I go off the expectation I might get 4 or 5 carp in this week, I'll be more than happy. But yeah, really good head of fish in this lake. You've got a number of 60s, loads of 50s, stacks of 40s and stacks of 30s. Probably going to be quite rare to even catch a 20, so really good size fish in this lake. I think there's about either 250 to 300 fish in the lake. Plenty of fish to go at. Stunning venue. we're on this bank of the lake, which is pegs 3, 4 and 5 and 6. 6 is like a little bay, and we have a small shed, well, a large shed, which has a toilet and running water, sink, facilities just to do some washing, fridges, freezers, and then if you walk around to where pegs 1 and 2 are, and if you were to carry on walking around that side of the lake, you've got the 2 shallows pegs, which is 7 and 8, and yeah, just past pegs 1 and 2 you've got the main sort of hut, and that has the shower facilities. It's got plenty of charging points, you can recharge all your gear, and yeah, and that's where we go and eat as well. So this week alone we've got Lee is going to be doing breakfast for the 2 of us, and we've got the lake, they're doing the evening meal. So last night evening meal was absolutely delicious. Didn't get any footage of it just because it was the first day and it was just a little bit busy, to say the least. So that went down last night, and there was a full rack of ribs, chips, salad, bread, some sort of pate, with a couple of ice cold beers on the table. So what more do you need? So yeah, lovely food, lovely venue, crap weather, but I'm happy. So I'll talk more later in the video about other things, but at this moment in time it's day 1, proper day 1, can't count yesterday as a travel day, and it's midday. We're fishing pretty effectively, and let's hope one of us can get something this afternoon. Well, it's now Sunday evening, which is the end of our first full day of fishing. It managed to stop raining about an hour ago, thankfully. We've been down to the lodge and had a nice Sunday dinner by Brad, one of the owners. It was very nice. And yeah, I've just got all 3 rods back out. So my left hand rod is in open water, not very far out. That is my heavily baited rod. The other 2 rods are towards the far margin. So my middle rod is to the right of that island, over across that margin with the overhanging trees. And then my right hand rod is just at the end of that bank, just where the trees start. Both of those rods are about a rod length off the margin, so not too close. Those 2 rods, they haven't got a great deal of bait around them, so I'm trying different tactics to see what works really. So left hand rod is over the bait, the other 2 rods just a light scattering around them. So yeah, fishing's you know, a little bit slow, but this venue doesn't advertise as being a runs water. It has, like I say, around 250 to 300 carp in 13 acres. So not many carp per acre. And if we can get a handful of carp by the end of the week, that would be a good result in my eyes. But yeah, nice and peaceful at the moment. The rain is due back tomorrow morning, so I'm going to make the most of this dry weather and enjoy it. Good morning, guys. I decided to get up early this morning. It's 5:45. I wanted to be up just in case one of us gets an early morning bite and can be on the rod quickly. I think we drew a fish when I was over in Lee's swim last night, 8 o'clock. One of his rods ripped off. Unfortunately, when he picked his rod up it had gone, but it was 100% a take. His rod was bent round double, It's a promising sign. It was disappointing to lose it, but promising. So I think we're definitely going to see a fish on the bank today, at least one of us. So I thought I'll get up early, be prepared. Hopefully we're going to get an early morning fish. Definitely due something today. But I'll get the stove on, get some coffees on the go. Speak to you in a bit. This has basically been the weather since we arrived. Had some spells of no rain, but it's pretty much been heavy rain, so tough conditions. Looking at the forecast before we arrived, it had been pretty much sunshine, highs of 24, 25 degree heat most days. This week, averaging around 14 degrees, dropping down to about 10 on a night. Loads of rain, loads of fog. It's not going to help us on the fishing front. Never mind, it's out of our control. We'll try and make the most of it. See if we can get some of these humongous carp on the bank this week. It's about 10 o'clock Monday morning. The rain stopped and we've got some clearish skies with a bit of sunshine, so this is the best the weather has been since we arrived on Saturday. So I'm hoping that this is really going to help with the fishing. Might just kickstart something. So I've got 3 different spots going on, hence why I'm using single sticks instead of using like a pod like I normally do. This is my right hand rod. It's towards the second tallest tree at the right in the centre of the screen, about 2 rod lengths off that margin. So heading over there, and that rod's been out on that same spot 3 times, each time with a hopper were like full of bait, so roughly 2 to 3 kilo of bait on that spot. My middle rod is that sort of bushier tree in the centre, and same again, so that's further out, a couple of rod lengths off that far margin. So them two are in a similar area, just following that far margin which goes alongside the island, and I'm sure carp get into that area. And then my left hand rod, I did originally have it just off the left of the island, seeing as there's no one fishing in pegs 1 and 2. But I've now moved it. I felt like I needed an open water swim, just so I'm covering all areas. So where there's a V in the tree line on the far side, I'm fishing not that far out, but aiming towards the V at about 60 yards, 15 wraps, and that is a heavily baited area. So that's how I'm fishing at the moment. Like I say, it's Monday morning, I've had no fish yet. I'm really hoping this slight change in weather is going to kick-start something. Just a quick update. Brad, who was one of the owners of Negreloube, just had a walk around there and he asked where my spots were, and he's advised me that 2 of my rods, which was my middle and my right, which was over towards that tree line, he thinks they were a little bit too far out, a little bit too close towards the trees. where it's a bit shallower, so he's advised that I bring them a bit further towards me. So my right hand rod, I've just got a marker out, that's going to be just over towards that corner. So I'm just going to go around, walk around the dam wall and just throw in about 10 boilies around that float and get a rig on that. And then my middle rod, it's going to be around the same distance out, but somewhere in open water, which I'll decide in a bit. But yeah, that's going to be my slight change of tactic. So them two rods can be brought in a bit closer, in a bit deeper water. It's 7 foot where that float is, and hopefully things can improve. It's not been raining for the last few hours, so that is a bonus. As you can see, had a little change, so I've now got two rods in a similar area to each other. So my right hand rod is towards the dam wall, roughly the centre of the screen, and I'm about 15 feet from the dam wall, which is in about 8 foot of water, so that's in the deep water. And then my middle rod is where there's an overhanging branch, that's fairly tight to that, probably about 6 to 8 feet away from that, and that's in 5 foot of water. So my middle rod is the one which is fishing fairly locked up. Don't want the fish going into the snag. But yeah, a little change just from the visit from Brad earlier. He's tried to put me on some fish. So the plan is when I walk around, I can just hand throw in some boilie. And I'm going to kind of just do it in a little line, just from around there in the centre, just to there. It's maybe probably about 15 feet from each other, and just do a little sporadic scattering of boilies, just trying to get them confident in feeding. And we'll see if we can get something. It's about 3:30 now, Monday afternoon. The rain keeps coming back in spells. It's just about finished raining for now. So I'm going to crack open a can of lager, tie a couple of rigs and chill. It's now Tuesday morning. Unfortunately, another quiet night for both me and Lee. No fish to report. I've been up since sunrise and I just can't see any signs of fish. I've been scanning the whole lake, it's not just in front of me. There's just no signs of feeding, no signs of any shown fish. So it's not like we can just get up and move somewhere else. If they were shown in a different area, I'd be more than happy to move swims, but there's just no signs of them anywhere, so really tricky. Just saying to Lee there, we could really do with a fish today just to try and boost our spirits a little bit. We're just being hemmed into our bivvies with the constant rain. It's raining now. It's forecast all day rain, and then tomorrow morning we're meant to have a bit of a dry morning, and then it's going to be absolutely torrential tomorrow afternoon and all day Thursday, and then light rain Friday. So we've got rain all week. So very tough conditions, crappy weather and crappy fishing. Regarding the fishing, there's not much more we can do. My left hand rod's out in open water on a baited spot, and in that area it's just all the bottom is just level. It's all around 7 foot. There's no features or nothing, so that should really be, you know, a decent little spot. Just try draw them in with the food. but no, I'm not putting any more bait on that spot unless I get a bite. And then the two rods that ended up going out towards the right hand margin last night, I fired in probably about 50 boilies in like a scattering. So I'm not putting any more boilies in unless I get a bite. So it's just a case of sitting it out now and just waiting and hoping that a rod goes. Rig wise and bait wise, tried a few different things, but I initially started off with a fluorocarbon D-rig. On a snowman presentation I was using the lake boilies what I've purchased, and topped it off with a pop-up. And then once fishing was slow, I thought that was maybe not the way to go, so I switched it over and I'm just using wafters on the D-rig, changing the colours, wondering if that's got anything to do with it, but it hasn't. It's just fishing slow. So at the moment I've got two yellow wafters on them two rods, and on my left hand rod, because that was over a heavy baited spot and I thought there might be quite a bit of disturbance with multiple fish grubbing around in the nearby area of the rig, I decided to go with a spinner rig with a pop-up, just so that it can reset itself if there's fish nearby. So yeah, so that's where we're at with the rig choice at the moment. It's early afternoon Tuesday, nothing to report other than more rain. I've just had a little walk around it. The rain stopped about 10 minutes ago, so I just had a quick walk around the dam wall. I did see some bubbles coming up from like a lot closer into the dam wall, which is in really shallow water, about 3 foot. It probably wasn't a carp, but I just thought I won't know unless I try, so I've brought one of the rods in and put it on them bubbles, so we'll see. If it doesn't go in the next hour, it clearly wasn't a carp feeding, but got to try everything when the conditions are against it like this. It's Tuesday night now, it's raining still. The only change is that I've put all three rods towards my slight left, just in deeper water. I've seen a couple of signs of fish over there where I've seen nothing to my right or in front of me, so all three are in that deeper water tonight, and then made a decision in the morning we're going to move. And yeah, as long as it's not absolutely peeing down when we first wake up, we're going to move in the morning. So fingers crossed we get a couple of hours of no rain, which is what my weather app is showing, but it's also saying that we're not meant to be getting any rain now, but we are getting rain. So yeah, hopefully in the morning we have a dry spell so I can get moved before the heavy rain starts around lunchtime. So yeah, hopefully we can get moved in the morning so I can fish a different part of the lake, because it's just not working at the moment. I'll see you in the morning. So I managed to get moved. Took me a good few hours, but managed to get all sorted, find some areas to fish to. Got the rods in the water a couple of hours ago. So it's now 2:30 Wednesday afternoon. So I'll tell you what I'm doing up to now. I'm in swim 1 and 2, which is a double, and I was originally across over there. And if I go there, that's Lee. And then there's swim 6 there, which is empty. There's a bear. And then I've got all this open water. And over there is where the shallows pegs are. I've got a little nice bear here. But I've had the marker out and it's only between 2 and 3 foot, so it's very shallow. The fish do get in there, but I prefer to fish in the deeper water. So my right hand rod at the moment is basically on the corner, and it's in 4 foot of water. So it's just off that corner where there's a V in the tree line. 22 wraps, it's about 4 foot, so I've got my right hand rod there. Middle rod at the moment is basically 22 wraps towards the middle of the lake, in line with the middle of that bay. Left hand rod I've got just to the right of the overhanging trees on the island. That's in about 4 foot of water as well. I have seen a fish show just not long ago, not too far out in front of sort of this middle rod I've got. It was probably about 20 yards out. It wasn't very far out. So I'll see if there's any more shows, and if there is, I'll put a rod on it. So yeah, feeling a bit more refreshed now. Got moved, got a fresh start, got showered, ready for a fish now. So this morning we were planning on moving, both me and Lee, and we told Brad, the owner, so he was going to come along about 8 o'clock with his trailer, help us move. So I got up early, brought my rods in, and was packing down, and we were going to be moving for 8. And at 7:30 I heard one of Lee's bite alarms go, but I thought he was just picking up a rod to bring it in. But he had a fish on the end, so I'll show you that footage now.
Right, where do we start? It's been a tough week, and yeah, we've contemplated moving this morning. We've done 4 nights, and for no avail. I've put about 60 to 70 kilo over one spot now, and it's finally come good. I was going to be moving this morning, but I think plans are going to be changed now, because someone's interrupted me, and this beauty of a 59 Commons turned up. Let's have a look at her. Look at that beauty. 59.8, a beast of a common carp. Just one of the jewels that the Etang Negreloube's got in. Proper beauty.
So I was over the moon for Lee with that fish, and what a fish it was. But yeah, we didn't realise it at the time until Brad told us after the video footage that it was actually a fish that Lee caught last year when he came in October. So he only caught the 2 fish last year, and one of them was a 61-pound common, so slightly down in weight, but 59.8, it's the same fish. So what's a chance of getting a repeat capture when there's 300 fish in here? So this is swim 1 and 2, like I mentioned, loads of room. So you could quite easily have a couple of bivvies and a bit of a social area. Whoever's in swim 1 would be fishing in that bay unless you came to an agreement, which I'm sure you could. Plenty of space, and yeah, you got plenty of open water to fish at, as well as an island to the left. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. I apologise for the lack of updates, but there's nothing really to tell you. Same old really, other than moving to a different swim. Weather's just terrible. But there is flooding all over the UK as well, so it's just unfortunate. I was here in a heat wave last year in France, and now I'm here in floods. So the only thing that has happened is there was quite a number of shows this afternoon, which hasn't really been happening this week. So yeah, seemed to be looking a lot more active, the carp. So there's a couple of shows quite close in to me here on this bank. So this middle rod, which was quite far out in, towards the middle, that's now just about 7 laps out, not far out at all, just where I seen a fish earlier. It's in about 4 foot of water, so it's deep enough. So I thought, I've got nothing else to go on. And then my right hand rod, similar really, sort of between me and that corner of the bay, pretty much in the middle really. I seen a fish show, and I put my marker float out on it, and it was 5 foot, so put that rod on it. So see what happens during the night, if anything. I'll keep hoping, stay optimistic. The only positive thing about not catching fish is I'm dry, but I would rather be wet. Right, hopefully I'll see you during the night. If not, it'll be in the pouring down rain in the morning, making a coffee. Unfortunately, 0 fish. The weather app was correct. It was torrential rain. Yeah, it was a rough night, far from ideal. Yeah, we just got pounded by heavy rain all night, so I didn't sleep too bad, but it was just very broken. I was waking up all the time. But overall I did manage to sleep okay. But yeah, the rain has calmed down, but it's still pretty wet, as you can see, just not as heavy as it was. But yeah, I'm starting to lose the will to live really. It doesn't help being bivvy bound. Yeah, it's a tough one when you have a trip booked for so long and you're looking forward to it for so long and keep talking about it to your mates, and then you get here and it just doesn't go to plan. I'm not even talking about the fishing, I'm talking about just the weather really. If it wasn't for the weather, I'd be able to do a bit more socialising. I'd have a few drinks on a night time. But it's a tough one when it's just hoying it down all the time. You don't want to be getting soaked. Sometimes you're better off just sticking out in your bivvy. But it does do your head in. It does my head in anyway. So yeah, it's not gone to plan. I'm up against it with the fishing. It's Thursday morning now. And we're going to be off the lake early doors Saturday morning. Tactics wise, I've not really put a great deal of bait in since I arrived on last Saturday. when I was over on swim 3, I did put a fairly decent bit on like an open water spot, but nothing happened with that one. And then the other rigs I was putting out in different places was just like a hopper's worth, so about a kilo's worth. It's not a lot of bait really. And then I've moved into this swim and all I've put out is like a kilo over each rod, if that, probably about half a kilo actually. And I really thought that being in a new spot, just lightly baited, might get me a bite, but it's not. So I'm in a bit of a predicament now with my bait, what to do. Lee did catch his over a very heavily baited area, but obviously it took quite a few days for it to get him a bite. And I'm running out of those days, so yeah, I'm in a bit of a predicament. Well, would you look at that? It's currently not raining. Don't know how long for. My weather app might be wrong. It says we've got light rain during the night, but Lee's weather app reckons we might have no rain during the night, which would be lovely. We're expecting light rain for most of tomorrow, but nothing as heavy as today, hopefully. But yeah, it's completely different this lake when it's not raining. The carp start showing a little bit more. It just feels like it's a lot more active. It's strange how weather can affect the fishing so much. But yeah, I just had to walk around swim 3, which is where I moved from, and there was a lot of signs of feeding, which is typical. It looked like they were feeding on the bait that I'd put in when I was fishing there, but I had to make a call. You know, I'd done 4 nights there, and if I'd have sat there all week and blanked, I'd have only been kicking myself. So I made the decision to move, and I've got to stick with that. What will be will be. But the place is looking a bit more alive tonight, so there's been a couple of shows. I've seen nothing in my area, but more towards where Lee's fishing. So hopefully Lee might get into something. I think he's put a rod over towards where I originally was, over in swim 3, so I don't blame him. But yeah, let's see what the night brings. Hopefully we can get something out. We shall see. So this is a view from Lee's swim, which is 4 and 5, a double. Get stacks of water at this swim. So if you can imagine, this will be swim 4 if there's 2 of yous. To get all this open water. Just so you're aware, that's swim 7 over there, and that bay in front of you is where I am in swim 1 and 2, so I'm just over there. But yeah, you get stacks of water. It's probably about 23-24 wraps to the middle of the lake from here, and then over to the left, which is swim 5. You've got an island there, but if there's anyone in swim 6, you'll probably just have to negotiate who's going to be fishing where. But you've got plenty of open water still. And if there's no one in swim 6, you can fish anywhere really, from the end of the bay there on the corner up to the island, or to the right of the island. I think anywhere past that island is like a no fishing zone. I think it's pretty shallow anywhere. But yeah, you've also got a bay just to your left there, so if there's anyone in swim 6, it's just like a nice shallow bay. But yeah, plenty of water from this swim. Right, well, it's Friday morning. Obviously you can tell by no updates during the night, it was pretty quiet, but we've got a slight break in the weather, so I thought now would be a good opportunity to sit down and just have a little chat in front of the camera, and especially with Lee. So yeah, we'll start off really with we've had a challenging week, haven't we?
Yes, to say the least. Dave, it's been a tough one, but we've had a good go all round.
Yeah, so we arrived, you know, by the time we got set up on the Saturday night, it was pretty late. I wasn't 100% happy with where I was fishing, but I had 3 rods in open water and that was enough just for the first night. Sunday morning, I had a bit more of a lead about, markering up, found some nice areas. So I was fishing properly from Sunday morning. And yeah, I'd done 4 nights in swim 3 and I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't really seeing any signs of feeding. I didn't really have anything else to go on, to be honest. We didn't really see many other shores, but I just felt like I had to do something, which is why I moved into swim 1 and 2, sorry. And yeah, and up to now it's not paid off, but I'd have been kicking myself if I'd have stayed in swim 3 and I'd have ended up possibly blanking, so I had to do something. But yeah, we've been up against it, obviously with all the heavy rain. You know, have you got anything more to add to that, Lee?
I think on reflection, as a summary for the week, like you say, it's been a tough week with the weather. We've thrown the kitchen sink at it pretty much, haven't we? Like for me, we sort of got here, first day fishing was Sunday. We've put those rods out based on fish that we've seen in different areas. We've baited them spots. Chasing, sort of like showing fish, didn't really work after a few days, so then I opted for a baited area out in the middle, which I've probably put about 120 kilo on that spot of 2 visits with a boat, with a rowing boat, and for 1 fish in the end, which was a very good fish, which I'm really happy with. But yeah, in terms of the tactics, what I've probably used, I've gone for showing fish, that hasn't worked. I've gone for baited spot hoping they'll turn up. That hasn't really worked. In combination with like the bad conditions, and I mean the water temperature's massively dropped. We've had a hell of a lot of water that's come through this lake, and it has just been a bit of a moody week, I think. On a personal note for me, I don't totally always like to sort of say the weather conditions or the lake is to blame. Ultimately there's fish out there to be caught, and I don't think I've probably done something wrong somewhere along the lines. Not totally, but I've had a good go. And yeah, we've got 1 more night to go, and we'll see what we do. Yeah. That's pretty much all I've got, really.
Yeah, I think you're being a little bit hard on yourself with the fishing, because I've tried every tactic going. I initially in swim 3 had an open water spot where I put a fair bit of bait on, about 20 to 25 kilo, mixture of pellet and boilies. Sat on that for 4 nights, nothing happened. I then had my other 2 rods, which ended up being a bit of roaming rods. I never really put much bait out. They're always getting put in different areas. I've tried towards the tree line, I've tried towards the dam wall, I've tried in open water, tried just dropping a rig on where I've seen a bubble. You know, I think I've tried everything, so we can't even say we've baited too heavy in areas, because I've really tried to do the opposite on at least 2 of my rods. So yeah, it's just been a moody week when it comes to the fishing. And over on swim 1 and 2, I've not put much bait in. I've literally, on each rig I've dropped from the boat, I've put about between ½ kilo and 1 kilo of boilies and pellets. So I've not been baiting heavy over there. So we have tried everything, and we've been pretty observant. We've been looking out for any signs. I mean, I've had a couple of fish show not far out in front of me, and I've had my rigs on them spots now for like 2 nights and nothing's happened, but I know the fish are there because they've shown over it. But yeah, it's just been one of them weeks. But just as a recap, this was my first time here. This is my 4th visit to France, and I've been to another venue called Forest Lake 3 times. This was more of a bigger fish water than what I was used to. Forest Lake was a little bit more of a runs water. Fish up to mid-50s, but the average stamp of fish were up at 20 to 30 pound. And I was, you know, in each holiday I've done to France, I've always ended the week in double figures, kind of, and that's the kind of what I'm used to. But I was sort of kind to myself on the way here. Lee asked me in the van what you're expecting, and I sort of said I'd be happy with about 7. Like, a fish a day would be, I think, fair. Would you have thought that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons sort of like the trip was booked for this time of year was reasonably high expectations to land on a good week where we was going to have a really good session. The conditions should have suited, really. I've come 6 weeks later down the line and it's been better than this, you know, end of October, and which is massively surprising. So yeah, a fish a day, I'd have said it'd have been a realistic target, 100%. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a runs water, and ultimately there is good rewards to be had in here. It just, yeah, it was a bit more challenging than what probably I initially expected.
Yeah, it's been a bit strange because with it being my first time here, I really done as much research as possible. So I was watching some YouTube videos. There's not many out there on here, to be fair, and many of them were from more than like 5 years ago. But it's a strange place from what I've seen. Going off what I know, obviously this week we've really struggled. Lee was here last October, and was there 5 or 6 of yous?
Yeah, there was 5 of us that fished it. 5
of yous fished it. Was there 4 fish out for that
4
week?
4 fish, so another really tough week.
And you had 2 of them?
Yeah.
So that was a really tough week. But then when you look at the Facebook page, it tends to be that they go through phases, especially in the summer, where they feed like mad. Where, I mean, there was one post from, I think, May, 2 anglers on, and they had about 44 bites, and it's just crazy. So yeah, it's a strange place how it can go from having that type of week to then this.
Yeah,
it's just weird for me.
I think it really is like that. It is feast or famine. I think that is pretty much like to come and have the week we've had, and you think, how would it ever do 50 bites in a week? And it's mad how a lake can turn on and off. So yeah, I mean, like you say, you see on the Facebook page where it might do 2 or 3 weeks where they're really having it off. Yeah. And then I'd say predominantly, it's probably a lot of weeks are going to be tough. Yeah. Yeah. And that is a true reflection, I'd say. Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head with your perception of how the lake performs, about how the how the fish react.
It does seem that the majority of the good weeks are in like the sort of May, June, July time, which is a little bit surprising because that's when it's going to be pretty hot. And you would expect September to be a really good month, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, same again. I've done my own work when it comes to booking this trip, and yeah, the weeks in September, from my own work at the time, there was really having it off in September. Bearing in mind, I'd also been in at the end of October, where it was really tough. Yeah. And logic would say that 6 weeks earlier, when you're probably 5 to 10 degrees warmer, you're getting a lot more sun, that it would be a lot more favourable conditions. Yeah. And it hasn't just turned out like that, has it?
No. And you know, I think we're both fish pretty smart, we're both fish pretty accurate, and you know, I know every time I've had my marker float out plenty of times, and I literally know everything what's in front of me, to the left, to the right, in front of me. I know the depths, I know if it's clean or not. I've fished as well as I can. Probably I put more effort in this week than I probably have done on any other trip, to be fair. And then going back to the YouTube videos that I've watched, there's been some really helpful videos as a couple, and you'll know them if you do have a little search. But then there was some videos of lads who were literally not really carp fishermen. You know, they'd flew in, they were just using what tackle they could use from here. didn't really know much more than how to cast a rod. You know, they were just casting anywhere they wanted to. They didn't know if it was 2 foot deep or 10 foot deep, whatever, and they were catching fish. And I just think that's just the comparison with this place. If they're feeding, they're on it, but we've put the effort in, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I think the effort side of it, I probably mirror what you're saying in terms of I've probably put a lot more effort in as well than what I have done on lots of sessions. Yeah, I had a lot more reward on other sessions, and I've definitely witnessed all the effort you've put in, I mean, you've grafted and grafted to, unfortunately, up to now to no avail. And I know even I've been tired myself about all the busying I've been doing in and out in the day, you know.
Yeah.
I've been flat out myself, you know, looking for fish, you know, coming up with tactics, you know, doing laps of the lake, and all around, tons of effort going in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I say no reward. At the end of the day, I have got a 59 pounder, and like on a personal note for me,
that was a really good fish.
Yeah, I mean, and I've said it many a times before when I've been here, and well, not many times before that I've been here, but many times that I've said it, that if I'd have had 20 fish to 40 pound, and to swap it for one fish for 59 pound, I'd do that every day of the week.
Yeah.
And I still stand by that, you know, like it's still a mega fish.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's, for me, that's the risk I take. You know, I'm taking the chance of maybe blanking, but I could walk away with a 60 or a high 50, and that is so for me. It's, the effort has been put in, and that has been the reward. That is one reward that I have got, and it'd have been nice if we would have had a lot more fish. You know, it's definitely still been moody. As it happens, man, one's just rolled, like literally right out in that peg, man. You couldn't write it.
No.
That's another thing as well. What I'd probably touch on, like it's been good for us to have the lake to ourselves, but because it's 13 acres, we are only covering so much of the lake, and I think there's an element of where there's that much safe water for the fish to go that we have noticed when we've moved, and then the peg's empty, that you're getting fish showing in that swim, and there is nearly probably half of the lake that we hadn't covered, and angling pressure does dictate where the fish will go, and if there's half a lake that's empty, there's an element of fish that will be out there. And I do feel that if there maybe been one or two more people where they'd have been bouncing the fish, I think you'd have got a bit more of an idea of where the fish are in terms of the masses of the fish. You know, I know we're seeing one fish roll here and one roll there, but doesn't necessarily tell the full story.
No, and I think before this week, I was thinking that it was going to work in our favour, just the two of us being on. But no, I think it probably has gone slightly against us. I think a bit of angling pressure, it would have moved the fish around a bit more. And like you say, they might be holding up in what they consider safe areas, where they've not seen a lead go in the water or lines or anything. But that's the way it's felt this week. So I think that's pretty much wrapped up how it's been for us this week. So I'll move on to how I've got here, how I've met Lee. So I'll just start it off. Lee runs Northern Carp Tours, which is it's basically like a personal service, really. Picks you up at your front door, drops you off at your front door. Well, I hope so anyway. And he takes you to the venue, and he'll basically he'll cook for you and basically provide that service for the week. So I'll let you say a little bit more on that.
No, I think you've covered pretty much everything, Dave. I hope you've had a good week all around in terms of the service that I've give.
No, it's been brilliant.
Yeah, that is it. It's an all-inclusive package service. Picked up and dropped off at your front door. All the transport, all the fishing, and all the food. And yeah, just all round gilly. If you're needing help on the bank, whether it be photos or whether it be, unfortunately, we haven't had the opportunities to be using them services this week, but that pretty much covers the trips. I'd say you pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, it might sound like this has cost me absolutely thousands of pounds and I'm a millionaire, but believe it or not, What's your website called?
So it's northerncarptours.co.uk.
If you go on the website, you'll see yourself, if you go on his what trips he's got coming up. The prices are on there, very reasonably priced. And I'll just explain a little bit how I decided to choose Lee. Obviously, I've been to France 3 times before. The first time I drove and I was with my missus, and that was more like a holiday, just fishing during the day, and then we had a lodge to sleep in on a night, which was nice. Second time I flew, and I was on my own, and I fished a lake. It was just, well, it's the same lake. It's only about 3 acres in size, but I had it to myself, lake exclusive. So I fished on my own that week, and that worked out quite well. But I must admit, being on your own for a full week, it can be a little bit lonely. Yeah, you start talking to the trees after about 4 days. So I was looking at what other options are out there, and then the third time I flew again, but I did come with my dad, so at least I had a bit of company. But yeah, I started looking into options, and I did fancy going in with more of like a group, and or certainly not wanting to fish on my own, because I just think a week's a little bit too long for me. So I started searching about the internet, and there was a couple of like tour companies that I've seen. I think the main one was Northern Carp Tours, I think they're called. But what I noticed with these other companies, you were very restricted. It wasn't a pick up and drop off at your front door. They used to designate where they were going to pick you up, and it might literally be the port where the ferry is, which is no good for me. I'm based in the northeast, so it would have been a case of working my way down there, and obviously having to drive home from there. So not ideal. So yeah, they were very restricted, and then I looked into places like, there was like Crete Lakes where they offer like a bus service, but same again, you're very restricted where you can get picked up. And I think out of all these other options I looked at, the most northern pickup point was probably about Birmingham or somewhere, and I thought, it's still too much for me. It's like a mission. That's like a 4-hour drive. And then I just happened to come across Northern Carp Tours, and it just sounded perfect. For one, he's based in the northeast, so there's not much of a translation problem between us. Although you're Yorkshire, yeah. I'm more northern than that. But no, and it made sense. And it was a pick up and drop off at your front door. And I thought, that's ideal. And then the more I looked into it, I started looking at his YouTube channel, Northern Bivvy Boys, and you had a couple of videos on there explaining what you can expect to get if you decide to come with him, and it's exactly how he says on the videos. You get a good, well, you don't get a good, you get an excellent service from the moment he picks you up. Gave me like a little goodie bag which had like a hoodie, t-shirt, chocolate, sweets, sunglasses, wafters, pop-ups, hand sanitizer. So you know what, very thoughtful, and he's got you covered. So yeah, it's just been spot on, hasn't it?
No, thanks for the feedback, Dave. I do appreciate the feedback, because ultimately the passion behind it for me is about giving people a good service, about people having a good trip, because the passion does come from years and years of myself going away and having below standard service or food or transport, and yeah, I thought I could fill a gap by there's lots of companies out there that are offering their own services, and I did feel there was a gap for somebody that was going to give a bit more of a top end service. And unfortunately, apart from the fishing, which I know is the main reason, that is still probably a work in progress for myself, finding the right venues, and yeah, it's still a moving target going forward.
Yeah,
because I always want to improve it. And yeah, I think the picking up at your front door is a big thing, because believe it or not, that the transport side of things is probably the biggest challenge for anybody wanting to come to France.
Yeah,
and it's not really a difficult thing for somebody like myself that's set up to do it. That it's no dramas, just travelling a couple of hours up the road. If it means somebody can get on a trip to France, it makes all the difference, I think. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that side of things, and yeah, thanks for the plug for the YouTube as well. You know,
yeah. No, anything to help you, because honestly, it's been a really tough week, and I think God, if I was here on my own, I think I'd be ready for home. I'd have been ready for home yesterday, but I think coming here with you, you know, we've had the worst weather possible, and it's still been an enjoyable week for me. Yeah, I've not had that 40 or 50 pound on the bank, but that's fishing. It doesn't always go to plan. But no, I'm really pleased with how it's gone. It's been a really good week. So.
No, and thanks for coming on the trip, and yeah, it's been enjoyable having you on the trip as well, Dave, and I think we've had a good week all around, haven't we, socially, and the fishing just haven't played ball, and that's pretty much it.
No, one thing I should add is this isn't Lee's full-time job, so his trips aren't like a regular thing, so you might want to expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so pretty much it was just a passion, really, a man of like experiencing bad experience after bad experience from other tour guides over the years, and thinking I could just do better myself. And my day-to-day job is in construction as a whole, but I did find enough space to put out a service where I think people that can't necessarily get there, they do want top quality food, they do want a top quality service, and yeah, I thought I could do better than what was out there, and just had a go at it. And like I said, you know, that I'm never going to be flat out all year doing these trips. You know, I can probably do 4 to 6 a year within my current work schedule that I have, and yeah, you know, I'm always looking to improve. You know, one of the drives for me is just a passion to watch people have a good time and hopefully catch big fish, rather than like, it's not financially motivated. You know, yeah, the money side of things for me was never in it like an interest, really. I was more than just happy at giving people good food, good transport, and hopefully good fishing. Unfortunately this time it hadn't worked out on the fishing side of it, but yeah, just from years of not having very good food, or like you say, having to take a trek down to Kent from the northeast is a bit of a pain, or luggage restrictions. You know, same again, it's bring as much as you want. I know everybody wants to bring the kitchen sink, and that's what you can do. I'm not going to be like 7 items and then that's you know, or you can't bring this and you can't bring that, and full of rules. It's
I must admit that was a massive draw for me, because although I've tried to restrict, like I tried to remove any fishing gear that I feel like I don't need, I still feel like I travel quite heavy, and I probably don't. I'm probably your average angler, really, but when I was looking into these other companies, I could tell they were very restrictive with what you could take. You could literally take, they literally told you your bed chair, your bivvy, and then they stated how many like personal bags you could take with you. So not ideal, you know. It's, you don't want to be restricted to that extent. Well, I certainly don't anyway. So that was another draw for me. So yeah, what I will just mention regarding the food, so usually Lee does all the food, the breakfast and the evening meal, but here at Negreloube they don't allow Lee to use the facilities for the cooking. So Lee's been doing the breakfast, and believe me, they've been amazing, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Like, couldn't ask for a better breakfast. And we've been getting the food package, the evening meal, from Etang Negreloube, and Brad has been doing that. So yeah, what's your honest opinion of the food package that we've had this week?
If I'm honest, mate, like I say, over the years, one of the reasons of doing this was because the food packages was always below par, always top end money for cheap food. And across the board, I think this is probably one of the only venues where I don't mind buying the evening meal food package. For me, it is good enough. He does. I think he's done a good job for the evening meals, and I am a fussy eater, so there aren't many lakes that I probably would trust to do an evening meal package, but I would definitely recommend the food package here. I thought he's done the portion size was really good. We've had good variation, and even though I'm still picky, and there's probably bits that I'd probably be like, I wouldn't have had that, but ultimately, as far as if I had to mark it out of a 10, it's definitely an 8 or a 9, 100%.
Yeah. No, I'd say overall I've been happy with the food as well. It's obviously hard to cater for everyone because everyone has likes and dislikes. The first meal was amazing. The first meal we had like pork ribs, chips, salad. That was incredible on the first night, and I really thought, wow, is this what it's going to be like every night? But it wasn't to that standard every night. You know, we've had spag bol one night, and it was a little bit lacking in standard for me. But it's hard to obviously maintain a high standard every night. You know, there was no garlic bread, I don't think, with the spag bol or nothing like that. We had chicken curry one night, which I personally didn't really enjoy, a little bit too spicy for me, but you know, we're all different, we've all got different tastes, and some people would absolutely love that. But overall, I've not gone hungry. It's been really good food overall, pretty happy. So I just thought we'd kind of just wrap this place up at the end of this section, talking about Etang Negreloube. I don't want to be too harsh on the fishing. I know from the catch reports there are good fish in here. There's meant to be 300 fish in here. It's 13 acres. But I personally, with the effort we've put in this week, I think we should have still caught a few fish, even though we've had atrocious weather. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think I think that's a true reflection. I am disappointed in our rewards compared to the effort that's put in. I think you're right on the nail there, mate.
Yeah. So overall with this place, I think fishing is a little bit unpredictable. You'll see on the catch reports it can fish its head off one week, and then there might not be any reports for a few weeks, which might mean that it's fishing moody. I don't know, but I know for a fact before our week here, I think the previous 2 weeks it's been fishing quite slow. Brad did mention he'd spoken to whoever was on here before Brad arrived with us on Saturday, that only like 3 or 4 fish had been out the week before us. So it's not like it's just turned like that once it started raining heavy. I think it has been fishing a little bit slow these last few weeks, and it just didn't help that we've had like monsoon type weather. So yeah, fishing, I'm not going to be too harsh on it, but I do think we should have had a few bites. Well, I know you've had one, but I think personally there's something not quite right. You know, I've been here for 6 days now and I've had 2 liners, I think, and that's been about the most action I've had. But the actual venue itself, I really like it. It's an established lake. I've read catch reports back to the early 2000s, so it's, you know, well established, tree lined, really stunning lake, to be honest. Swims are very well spaced out, good section of water for each swim, you're not casting over each other. Pretty good. I think it's a decent venue, but like I say, fishing can be a little bit unpredictable. If I was ever to come back here, I would definitely choose probably a summer month, one of the hotter months. That seems to be when the fish seem to be coming out a bit more. Have you got anything more to add to that, Lee?
No, mate, I think you've covered everything.
Cool.
I agree with the fishing side of it's been tough, and we have put loads of effort in, and unfortunately not been as rewarded as the what's put in.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think we've pretty much wrapped this up, and it's currently not raining, so I think now would be a good time to get my rods back in the water.
Yeah, man.
Well, I've just got back round to my swim from doing that piece with Lee, and it's raining pretty heavily. So it's now around 11:30. I'm going to get my rods out, and then they'll be in for about 6 hours, and then I'll bring them in for dinner tonight, and then they'll be going back out. What will be, will be. But it's Friday night, about 7:15. It's going to be getting dark shortly. So I guess I should end this video here. Obviously if I catch anything during the night I'll update you, but it's not looking too likely. It's been a challenging week to say the least. Don't know, I'm still laughing, but yeah. So I do apologise, this might have been a little bit boring for some of you, but yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes. Been very difficult fishing conditions. really poor weather. But I've put the effort in and tried, just haven't been able to reap any rewards. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.